Hey YouTube family, today we are replacing the screen on this iPad 8th generation. Glass will be flying everywhere, so please wear your safety glasses. Use a hot air gun to warm the edges of the iPad. If you don't have a hot air gun, use a hot air blow dryer and it'll work just the same. The good amount of heat you want to use is by placing your finger on the screen, and you can only withstand it for between 1 and 2 seconds. You want to keep your pry tool at the edge of the device, not going far too deep because you don't want to puncture the LCD. You want to stop about 3/4 of the way down because there is a cable there and we don't want to cut it. I use plastic guitar picks to help keep the screen separated while we work on the rest of the iPad. On this side of the iPad, we do not have any cables to worry about, so you can go all the way down with your pry tool. Hey, if you're finding value in this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. It'll help out quite a bit. Also, comment below on what part of the iPad you are having difficulties with or you found easy. Great, let's get started at the bottom of the iPad. Down here you have your Wi-Fi and signal antennas, so you want to be extra careful by not going too far into the iPad. The best rule of thumb is just keeping it at the edge of the iPad screen and using plastic pry tools to help you out with separation. Now that we have all the edges separated, we can open it and start working on the inside. Go ahead and lay down the screen on something that's elevated so that doesn't rip the home flex cable, as the flex is still attached under the LCD display. Alright, great. Now we're going to work on the most delicate part of the iPad, the home button. The screen has a ring that the home button sits on. I like to take that ring off together with the home button to make it easier to install on the new screen. So be sure to scrape that ring off with the home button together. It's a good idea to use a generous amount of heat and take your time with this part. iPad home buttons are married with the device, and if this cable gets damaged, you can replace it, but you will lose your fingerprint scanner, and that's because of Apple's security. Cut the old Digitizer screen cables and get that out of the way. Let's start cleaning up the iPad. Let's go ahead and remove any remaining glass and double-sided tape that has been left behind. Do be careful because pointy glass is sharp and can cut you. It's a good idea to throw a penny on the front-facing camera to protect it from the heat. One of the key tricks is to remove all the remaining glass that's left over that's still sitting on the frame, because potentially small leftover glass will crack the digitizer when you apply the new screen on. We have 4 Phillips screws that we had to remove that's holding the LCD in place. Sometimes the screws are hidden by some LCD liner. Just peel that off a little bit and cut it off to get it out of the way. It's helpful that the screws are magnetic. Just remember to put them somewhere safe because we definitely need them for later. Now we have to remove the LCD carefully so we can get to the cables underneath. The LCD is going to be wedged in there pretty tight, so I use a little bit of heat to loosen it up and it comes off a lot easier. Now it's important not to remove the LCD because it's still attached to the board. And it's also a good idea to disconnect the battery from the board so we don't have any electricity going through it. We don't want to short anything out, simply put a plastic between the board and the battery. Now we are going to remove the shield that is holding the LCD cable and the digitizer cables down. It's a good idea to use a plastic pry tool to pop the cables off. Let's go ahead and remove the home button flex cable. Remove the black tape and you'll notice a black hinge holding the cable down. Pop that towards you and slowly pull the cable out. There's this black rubber thing holding down the cable in place. Move that out of the way and you can easily remove the cable from there. Put the home button somewhere safe and we're going to continue work on the rest of the iPad. Now that we have the hard part out of the way, which is removing the home button and the LCD, we can do a thorough cleaning on the iPad. Here we can go over the rest of the iPad and remove all the remaining double-sided tape and any remaining glass that's also been left behind. Once you have all that removed, what I like to do next is get glue gun and put that all around the frame of the iPad. We will let the glue gun sit for 3 to 5 minutes doing its job, and it will soak up all the glue, and then you can just easily scrape it off. This part of cleaning the iPad is extremely important because this will determine how long the iPad screen will sit on the frame for. If the new screen will sit on a clean, bare bone metal frame, the adhesive will stick a lot longer. Another good benefit of having a good seal, it will prevent dust from entering the screen and making the screen look very dusty. And the last of my cleaning is I take some alcohol and paper towel and I just go around the whole iPad and clean off any of the glue gone and anything that might have been left over. So this is an iPad 8th gen, but I am using a 7th generation digitizer, and that's because Apple made it to where you can use the exact same part. Here's that ring we talked about earlier. Go ahead and use some heat and take off that old ring because we're just going to use the one that was originally on there. Cut off some double-sided tape, cut them into small squares, and you're going to put them where the brackets are going to sit. Go ahead and grab your home button and fit it in there nice and snug. Once you got it sitting in there good, the next part is you want to line up the little black button that's on there with the little metal silver part, and that's going to give you the little clicking mechanism. Eyeball it and make sure it's sitting nice and center. Give it 1 or 2 clicks to make sure it feels good. Go ahead and lay the flex cable straight across. Elevate the screen, and we're going to connect the digitizer cables to the board. Make sure there is a firm connection with the digitizer cables to the board. Go ahead and grab your flex cable, slide it in there all the way, close the latch, and put back the black tape. Go ahead and get your rubber placement and put it over the home button flex. Go ahead and grab your LCD. Don't forget, don't touch the display with your fingers. Reconnect the Phillips screw that connects the board to the battery, makes connection. What we want to do next is just take it for a test run to make sure our cables and our digitizer are all connected well and everything works perfectly okay. We tested our home button, our touchscreen, and the display are all connected well, so we can go ahead and start sealing it up. Let's lift up the LCD one more time and screw down the shield because this helps keep everything held down properly. Once the shield has been screwed down, we're going to install the LCD. Remember, keep your fingers off the display. I like to go around the frame of the LCD and push it in so it sits in there nice and snug. Grab your Phillips screwdriver and your 4 screws and tighten all the screws back in slowly, that way you don't slip and crack the LCD. Let's go ahead and do some last minute cleaning with a microfiber cloth and a little bit of air to clean off all the dust and any remaining fingerprints that might have been left behind. Most iPads do come with double-sided tape already installed on the iPad. If yours doesn't, just cut some off and just line it up on the edge of the screen just like this one is here. I like to go the extra mile and just get some B7000 glue and line it up all around the frame of the iPad. This is not completely necessary because the double-sided tape that's included on the iPad does a good job. I like to do so because it helps with the water resistance and it gives it a tighter seal. However, just be careful with the glue because it can get messy and it's much harder to clean up. I accidentally had a string to fall on the LCD and I had to clean that up. Alright, one last touch up with the air and we are ready to get this installed. The digitizer has a clear film to keep the fingerprints off of it. Just go ahead and peel that back. Slowly lay down the digitizer onto the frame and try to line it up real well before you press down on it. Once you observe the screen is sitting inside the frame real well, go ahead and press down all around the iPad and secure that seal. Great, we're going to take it for one quick run before we seal the deal. Once you have noticed that the iPad touchscreen is working okay, the next step is to put pressure down on the digitizer to secure the bond with the frame. I use these tools, but before I just used a heavy book for about 30 minutes and it should be good. I hope you have enjoyed this video. See you on the next one.